All right, we should be live.
All right.
Okay, let me pop up the site.
Huh? What was that, Golix?
I said, let me pop the site up.
Oh.
Oh boy, an ad for McDonald's breakfast. Oh no, excuse me, Taco Bell breakfast. All right, testing, 3, 2, 1.
Words and voices.
All right. Let's get started here.
Everyone is basically okay. Petty Fan is louder than we are, but whatever.
I just boosted you guys.
You're projecting. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty, there's that. Skype. Alright, we can begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right. Apologies for the late start this week. Card games got, I don't know, intense or something. Like, anyway, welcome to the Fragments of Silicon reviews. 4 reviews up this week. The first of which is, I believe this is pronounced Sephonie. Not exactly sure, but Sephonie is what we're going with. Right. Sephonie is a 3D exploration-based platformer with parkour elements from the creators of the Anodyne series. If you might recall, we actually had these creative forces on our program some years ago when they were in the midst of development in Anodyne 2. And we did subsequently review that game. I believe we also did Even the Ocean, which was an earlier work of theirs. And now we've got Sephonie here. Their most ambitious work to date, because so what's been continued here is the 3D platforming PlayStation 1 era aesthetics and all that from Anodyne 2. Only it's more platformy here. Like, it's got much more in the way of what we think of as a 3D platforming design with, here's this tree level, and you've got to jump to places to get to get through the trees and stuff like that. And there are, and interspersed with these, there are, parkour challenges. That's a new thing this go around. You can sort of run on walls, more on that in bits. But, they really wanted to add, Prince of Persia Sands of Time elements here. And what's gone is any sort of, if you know the Anodyne 1 or parts of Anodyne 2, you'll remember that game had top-down adventure, in the vein of Link's Awakening, specifically Link's Awakening. None of that this time. That's been replaced with, like, kind of Tangram, but not exactly. Or I don't know if anyone else here has played a game called Budoku. Had that on my mobile device not too long ago. I guess for those who lack the frame of reference, a major part of the game is linking up with the various flora and fauna and fungi encountered on this island. And in order to do that, this syncopation is presented in the form of a puzzle game where you take colored blocks and you have to insert them, and your basic goal here is to match colors. You match the tiles, and go for the big combos kind of deal. And that's how it's like Tangram, in that you've got to place blocks in, they're shaped, they are specific, but they're shaped like Tetris blocks, T blocks, Z blocks, that kind of deal, square blocks. And unlike Tangram, you don't have to fill the entire board, as it were. And the twist here is many of the puzzle fields will have impediments of certain natures, like a section of the board is locked off until you get a certain amount of blue blocks on the board or something like that. Or you've unlocked the vent, or you've gotten rid of enough of these colored gems, stuff like that. And that's the basic framework of the mechanics here, and it's, if nothing else, a unique mix. And I've been going back and forth on Sephonie here, because there are aspects I like, there are aspects I respect, and unfortunately there are aspects I don't think came together. But I guess I should start with what I really enjoyed about Sephonie. Well, no, I did not complete the game, but I suppose I could have, because I guess another point to note here, I guess with my games, there's going to be sort of a theme in terms of accessibility, because I'm not sure if this is the first game we've covered on the program, but it's certainly the first game I've noticed where there are a extensive suite of accessibility options. Real modern day accessibility options. And what do I mean by that? Well, it gets into the whole. In this case, it's in regards to the difficulty. I don't recall seeing too much in terms of colorblind mode or things like that. This was the tweaks here were definitely more in regards to, are you having trouble playing the game? We can make it easier for you. And you might ask, how easy? Well, it's like you can jump as much as you want. You can dash as much as you want. If you're having trouble on the puzzle segments, you can become invincible. Yeah, you can basically make the whole game a non-factor, which is, I'm sure, which I'm sure would be a dynamite conversation if this were a Soulsborne. But it's a niche 3D platformer, so it's probably not going to cause that much in terms of consultation.
Is there any sort of grand story here, or is it just...
that is all well and good that they have put those there for those who, who are having problems, or, may have, for the sake of argument here, some sort of muscular degenerative disorder or something along those lines that would have this potential person have problems in the actual jumping spaces or whatever. That's what that's what this is here for. And yes, you can totally. I can't say cheese the game here because, this isn't unintentional stuff. And it's not. These aren't cheat codes. These aren't anything of that nature. They are modern day accessibility options. And like I said, it's definitely the most robust I've seen. Not the most robust I can think of. I think Sony's first party stuff probably has the most robust accessibility features going right now. But that's a tangent for another time. But since, I can play games well enough, I will be evaluating this on a more critical level. Like, I'm not going to dock anything because it's got, ways to make the game easier. Like, anyway, so the thing I really like about Sephonie is it's doing things that no other platformer is doing that I can think of. Maybe the Psychonauts series, but I'm like, Psychonauts is that's probably the most character-based platformer I can think of, but that's also a very different style than what Sephonie is here. Sephonie isn't aiming for the comedic. It's a surreal, very narrative-heavy driven platform game that's focused around three persons from Taiwan in one way or another. They're not like, one is a Taiwanese American, one is from Taiwan, that kind of thing. And that is specific because that, a goal of this game was to explore the characters in regards to that nationality because, if I'm remembering correctly, that is the nationality of at least one of the creators of this game. So, we've got a narrative framework in a 3D platformer. And it's the kind of narrative framework you'd see in like a, what we call a walking simulator or, an adventure game. When you think 3D platformer, what are you thinking here? You're thinking Mario, Banjo, Sonic, that kind of thing. You're not thinking, we just like Dear Esther or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the lines we're talking about in terms of narrative. Not a surprise from this team though, because once again, they did the Anodyne games, which are actually similarly heavy on narrative, especially Anodyne 2. Like, so, like I said, this is just, it's well-worn territory in terms of indie games and that kind of focus, but nobody's really put this kind of story in a platformer. Even Psychonauts, that's more character than narrative. Like, this one is definitely, I would say, more narrative than character, but both are important here. Like, so it's got that going for it. But ultimately, I didn't really like this game, and that has to do with its actual execution as a platform game. That is to say, the actual jumping and platforming mechanics are pretty perfunctory. Like, they're okay, but that's about it. I felt the same about Anodyne 2's platforming mechanics. I will say the platforming here is actually much more fleshed out. Like, you actually have jumping challenges, and you have to deal with jump pads to get higher, and you do get a double jump if you're playing it normally. But okay, I did hint about it before, but the thing that really killed this game for me in terms of enjoyment was the wall running, was the parkour elements. The thing that they were so proud of for including. And I'm just baffled because how they ruined it is in the framework of actually getting the mechanic to work. Because for whatever reason, they didn't do it like other parkour games. I don't know if they wanted to be unique here or just special, but to break it down, in order to run on a wall in this game, or any sort of flat surface, even if they're not technically walls, anyway, you don't approach a wall from a parallel angle. You approach it at what they call a glancing angle.
Right. You're using your momentum of speed running along the wall to carry you across.
Right. And in order to do this, you have to approach the wall at like a 45-degree angle or something like that. Running parallel actually won't do it. Yeah, this was dumb. There's no other way to say it. Like I said, I don't know if they were going for different. I guess he accomplished that. But I absolutely hated this mechanic because turns out jumping at a acute angle to do wall jumping is really finicky. And more often than not, it wouldn't work. And it's like, and I just kept going, why is this mechanic like this? It's not like it's broken or anything in terms of it not working. It's just, it's a bad mechanic to its core. Like, I don't think that this was a good gameplay choice at all. I'm like, and I don't know if the devs hear this and disagree with me, fine. But it's like I'm sticking to my guns on this. It's the thing that killed the game for me. Like, because at first the wall jumping is rather optional. Like a 3D platformer worth its salt, there are collectibles, but they're optional collectibles. That's another thing that really differentiates this from pretty much any 3D platformer I can think of, at least, the major ones. It's actually more concerned about jumping challenges and, platforming than a lot of so-called platformers, especially when they lean towards more like the collectathon stuff. Like, once again, you can collect various capsules that contain items that are important pertaining to Amy, Ingwen, and Rio. I hope I'm pronouncing those right. I'm probably not, but, we've gone over this, haven't we? Like, anyway, but, those are optional. It's a lot of getting from point A to point B here. It's just, and getting to access the brains of the various animals and such. Those are the mainline goals, which, once again, is a lot different than any other platformer I can think of. So I really do think this mechanic was coming from those lines. Can't confirm, but that is my supposition. And yeah, it just didn't work. Like, that's unfortunate because, like I said, this is a very inventive and, unique platformer with tons of ambition in so many areas. Now, as far as the puzzle segments go, I actually like those the best. Like I said, I found the actual jumping mechanics to be fine, but it's like, yeah, this isn't replacing, say, Crash or Spyro or Mario for me in terms of, what I want from a 3D platformer. At the end of the day, like, another thing to note is, continuing on from Anodyne 2, do think I mentioned this before, but it's got this PS1 era aesthetic, low poly as an art style, and they did that for Anodyne 2 when you weren't in the 16-bit segments, let's call them, and I couldn't say that this was more surreal than Anodyne 2. Like that probably still holds the record there, but because this is though it could go in the opposite direction, because this is supposed to be more grounded. Like this is supposed to be our world with real world people, no animal mascots to be seen. Also a thoroughly excellent soundtrack. I would highly recommend it. Though it is a bit pricey, and indeed that gets into pricing. So here's the other caveat I have, because this game is going to run you a lot for an indie game, especially an indie game of this nature. Didn't seem to be particularly long, and I won't say it's a one and done, but yeah, the asking price here is $30 USD, $29.99. It is on discount for $26.99. I'm like, this game is a hard sell at $30. I'll be honest, this is probably a game that should have come in at $20. Like, I'm sure they had their reasons, but I think $30 is too much for what's on display here. Soundtrack is, the soundtrack is clocking in at $8.99, $9.99 regular. Once again, I suppose for what I heard, the soundtrack's worth it, though strangely enough, there's no bundle option. I'm like, I don't know if that's forthcoming or not. It seems like the kind of thing that'll pop up eventually. They might be waiting for the sale to be over because they don't want to have like an extra discount or whatever. But for right now, you cannot buy the soundtrack with the game in one go. And in summation, like I said, this was a hard one for me because, like I said, I liked a lot of what this game was doing, especially in the non-gaming segments. But if you wanted, here's the rub, at least in terms of my reviewing credo, it's like, because we review all sorts of games, we review, we've covered quite a few quote-unquote walking simulators on the program and stuff that veers towards that direction. It's like, if I'm going to approach the narrative that heavily, it's probably going to be in those terms. Since this is a 3D platformer, I am going to look through it in the lens of a 3D platformer and a parkour game. And along those lines, it's like I just wanted to play other better games, and I would consider that a mechanical failure, a profound one at that. But I'd still mildly recommend the game if it comes down on a deep sale, like $15, $20 at most, just to experience this, because there really is nothing else out there like it. Even the previous games aren't, once again, you can transpose some stuff from Anodyne 2 to Sephonie, but the Sephonie is definitely very much its own beast, for better or for worse. Right. So that'll about do it for Sephonie here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty Fan will be reviewing Elex 2.